You're muted, by the way. Coming to you live from Gumi Sea, just to the north here of Daegu. We are here today with the last of the TSL 9 Korea server close qualifiers. 8 players have already qualified. 4 more will join them. I'm, of course, Yakuzaku of Yakuzaku, and with me today is el editor de Mad que amunido está bastante contento en realidad. Light_VIP. How we doing, Light?
Hey, bien contento, bien contento. What's up, Yaku? Welcome back. Oh, I know we missed a day of casting with you, but Asher came in, Darking came in, some of the other Ducklings were able to fill on in, and it's great to be back here with some South Korean StarCraft.
Yeah, I felt the fill in. I felt.
Yeah,
and
I got filled up, mate.
I got filled.
Oh no!
Thanks, Asher, bro. Thanks, Darking. Yes, we kick off today's qualifying tournament on Inside and Out with a little bit of a PvT. In the top right-hand corner map, spotting all the way in the top right-hand corner, we have the red Protoss player coming down from the land of Korea. He is, of course, coming down representing Team NV. He is NightMare.
And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Inside and Out ESL, we have his teammate also representing Team NV. It is QuanTa.
Yeah, speaking of filled, Inside and Out. Yeah, it's fitting.
It is very fitting, mate. Very fitting. Let's go. Fun fact, I'm getting a little bit of deja vu because the other day we were able to cast NightMare versus QuanTa in the TSL number 2 or TSL 9 second Korean qualifier. Yeah, this matchup happened.
Not TSL 2.
Yeah.
Which was years ago. No, TSL 9 Korean server regional qualifiers number 2, and I think I wasn't around when that happened, but I do recall that we have been casting a lot of QuanTa lately, like as much as we possibly can whenever we see him on a bracket.
Intentionally. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah. For good reason.
I love this, man. Again, infamously, when it comes to TVZ, he has been known to go for quad Thor drops, of all things. It's amazing. It's beautiful. We love to see it. But in some of the other matchups, he can have a little bit of trouble. What I will say is that the last time these two faced in the TSO qualifiers, it did go all the way to the ace match. So, again, still relatively evenly like skilled, I should say, despite the fact that NightMare is a bigger name.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a pretty good sign of things to come. And I guess that may not be the most surprising thing in the world. When I think of NightMare, I think of his PvP, especially his PvP, his PvZ, but his PvT not as much. And who knows, maybe QuanTa will be able to be a bit of a wild card coming into today's bracket.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, personally, fingers crossed, but of course, it is still going to be an uphill battle. There are a lot of amazing players in the qualifier. Exclamation mark be in the chat if you guys want to have a look at the bracket yourselves. And we shall see how things progress, because NightMare is going for a stock standard Twilight Council opener. QuanTa also going for something of his own.
I'm a little disappointed in seeing something a little bit more standard coming up from QuanTa. Yeah, Hellions into a Mind Drop. It's not as common nowadays as it used to be, but let me tell you, like, it ain't. It's so Thor Drop.
True.
It's so Thor Banshee.
Exactly.
I guess it's more fitting for this matchup.
Yeah, it's no Thor Banshee. Shaking my head. Meanwhile, would you see the Hellions try to juke and drive, and they will be able to slip on past. Not going to be dealing too much damage. Oh my god, they get body blocked out of the main.
Yeah, that's a really good defense here from NightMare, not losing anything, not even any hull damage or any shields, really. But I do believe QuanTa was at least able to click on this, is that a robo facility they built?
That is a robo, but the robo is here at the natural base, quickly checking. He was able to see it, so thankfully he's well aware of what the opener is. And if he isn't, he's going to get some assurances now that the Widowmine drop is coming across the map. Ooh, it barely does get avoided by this probe. Probe does not see it. Widowmine drop heads towards the natural base. What's important is that there is no armory behind this, so it's not incredibly committed for a drop.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be with that observer coming out right now. I mean, I guess it still is quadruple mines, which, you know, it's a little bit more than typical, but like you said, he's not expecting to really keep those mines alive for too long. And speaking, medevac, hello?
Yeah. What I was gonna say is that, yo, the Stalkers, the main armies in the main base, the natural is exposed, let's go, but QuanTa missed his window, he missed his timing to potentially deal damage, and instead he goes towards the top left-hand corner of the map. I think, again, he wants to delay this drop for as long as possible and hopefully catch NightMare off guard and unawares. But that means that this drop is going to be chilling for a while.
Yeah, on the one hand, you know, he is more likely to be able to catch NightMare off guard later down the line and, you know, coming down in a non-standard timing. On the other hand, he's not going to get any scouting information from that drop or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a questionable move here by QuanTa, but a move nonetheless. Meanwhile, nicely done because of the Raven. The Observer is under threat. Looks like it will go down. With the death of this Observer, it also means that there is no high ground vision. NightMare won't be able to blink up into the main.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
There's another Observer here. Wow, NightMare. Baiting it out.
Oh, God. He wants the Raven.
Unfortunately, not quite gonna get it yet. One more volley! One more volley! Will take the Raven down. QuanTa playing with fire a bit too much there with that Raven.
Yeah, exactly. For a moment, he had pulled it back, and then he pulled it back forward. So a little bit unfortunate there for QuanTa, especially because the Raven didn't really do anything. It did kill an Observer, but ideally you want the Raven to do more than just kill one Observer.
Yeah, disables can really turn the tides of a fight. A good... I almost said Purification Nova. The Terran Purification Nova, you know what? No, the other EMP.
Dorito cannon?
Dorito cannon, anti-armor missile,
Hey,
whatever it's called. There we go. Yeah, really valuable down the line. And even just a couple of turrets to soak some damage.
Oh, exactly.
Literally anything from a Raven is useful.
Meanwhile, here we go. The winner drop is coming in, and it has not been seen.
And nice little bit of damage coming in here. That was only one of them, but we know exactly why NightMare didn't respond. He didn't care about the response. He's going in for the kill.
Yeah, exactly. He's diving all the way in. Meanwhile, we do have another Widowmine here at the natural and one in the main base as well. Armory finishes up, so detection is going to be required to deal with these Widowmines. But what about back at home? We only have a handful of bio units. We do have a tank on the high ground, which will definitely help. But, oh yeah, we have to pull a couple of ways to try and keep this alive.
Yeah, he's repairing that bunker, and surprisingly, the bunker lives. Just not quite enough instant damage coming in here from that Protoss army, but the Warp Prism sneaks into the main. All that damage that QuanTa was doing earlier on with the mine drops got completely neutralized by this one Zealot run by.
Yeah, exactly. It was impressive that he got 14 probe kills. Very impressive, but he loses 23 SCVs in the process. At the same time, we do see the bunker trying to be focused out. Looks like it will barely survive, so QuanTa will defend. But for how long? Because the Prism survived.
It did, and it's looking to get a couple more Zealots into that main base.
Exactly. Meanwhile, it looks like Widowmines have been cleaned up across the map as well. We do see the medevac did survive, thankfully, so there is some solace here for QuanTa. But he's hurting when it comes to the workers. He's hurting every which other way. Yaku, maybe time.
For 2 base Buta?
That's
yeah,
what it is when I say that. You're not wrong. Oh, God!
One Widowmine, unfortunately, is not enough to kill a Warp Prism. And the second Warp Prism of Zealots will just about complete. Mine's not quite able to finish up there. QuanTa was a little bit focused here on the other side of the map of clearing up this army, so it's not a total loss for him. Technically, he's hit an army supply.
Yeah, like here we go. This is what I was talking about. It's time to pull the boys. They're all coming across the map out of necessity more than anything else, just to stay away from those Zealots. Meanwhile, the production is being depowered here. He's getting into the natural main base. Sorry, the natural base. The main is still looking pretty good, and we still have plenty of gateways though.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of a bank here for NightMare. He can afford to warp in, but I'm not sure how well he can if all of these pylons get depowered.
Oh, exactly. That's the thing, right? We don't have that much economy remaining here either for NightMare. What's important, though, he's throwing down 5 cannons here at his 5th base, and he warps in a wave of High Templar.
Yeah, High Templar, he immediately turns into Archons. This is going to be very tough for QuanTa to deal with, and, you know, when it's all said and done, NightMare will have one mining base. QuanTa, I mean, he can float his buildings.
Yeah, there's a CC already halfway across the map. He can always mule if he needs to. Meanwhile, right now he's just focusing on every single pylon, making sure that NightMare won't be able to warp anything in. The Cybercore is going to be focused on as well, but thankfully we have a backup Cybercore. No gateways though, but that's also a lot of stack defense.
That is a lot of stack defense, but that's only one pylon powering all of that light. Archon's also moving a little bit out of position, and I don't think anything is in range to protect that mineral line from the Liberator.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes here. I mean, we do see a scan, do see confirmation. Oh, we have a recall as well. So now this base is looking pretty well fortified. QuanTa is going to have to try to find another way in. The Lib, though, that's a game changer.
Yeah, he's trying to bait some of these units, and he is successful in baiting out the charges. Yeah, that's basically a free zealot each time it moves into the liberation zone.
Oh god, exactly. We'll see how good this is. Meanwhile, the SCVs are so far doing a great job at tanking. We may even see some like mules come into play, like
yeah, just spotting block. Oh, hold position there from the Archons was keeping them alive for a second, but not for too much longer as QuanTa finds an angle.
Yeah, almost gets a second Archon, but with the War Prism Micro is able to barely keep it alive. Hard pick up there in the end. Meanwhile, I love this angle of attack by QuanTa because if you noticed, the cannons aren't helping at all.
Not one bit. He's also keeping that Liberator very far in the back. A lot of units are starting to go down. A couple of gateways got repowered, but the Archons are down.
The Archons are down, but with the gateways, we see a full surround here. Oh my god, NightMare is going to be able to clean up this army. GG gets called, and NightMare takes the game.
A game that honestly was way closer than it should have been. When you get down to it.
Yeah, that's insane. The fact that NightMare apparently had snuck back in and the gateways were not killed. They were only depowered, so he snuck back in, threw down a couple of pylons, got them back up and running, and he was able to get that warp in of Stalkers. To be fair, with the mass round of Zealots, he may have been able to defend anyway. It was still pretty close though.
Yeah,
pretty close.
It really was. Yeah, at the end there, just I don't know, maybe I'm trying to think back. Maybe a bit of a lack of killer instinct from QuanTa. Definitely, there were definitely a few times where maybe if he was a little bit more aggressive, he could have been able to overpower the Protoss army a bit more. But at the same time, when you're in a position like that, every unit counts. You don't want to be throwing. You want to make sure that every single move you make is calculated and careful. And that's exactly what QuanTa was going for. Didn't work out for him in the end, though, unfortunately.
It was close, though. It was close. I mean,
very close, yeah.
Oh, God. Regardless, GG, well played. We are now moving on into game number 2, and hopefully game 2 is as explosive as game number 1.
Yeah, I get it.
What?
Because we don't mind, yeah,
¿Tú ves mota?
¿Tú ves mota?
I love that. I meant pulling the boys, Jaco. I meant pulling the boys. God damn it.
But anyway, we are going to be. I was just conditioned.
I know.
Every time I say we are continuing our best of 3 series here on Cosmic Sapphire. We're in the bottom right-hand corner map, spawning all the way in the bottom right-hand corner. We, of course, have our red Protoss player coming out from the land of Korea. He, of course, is going to be representing Team NV. He is NightMare.
And spawning in the top left-hand corner of Cosmic Sapphire ESL, we have the South Korean Terran player himself representing Team NV. It is QuanTa. I just love his name.
Also repping innovation.
True.
Yeah, QuanTa, it's like Fanta.
It is.
But not.
But with
Fanta.
With quantity.
Yes. And I'll bet you it's the real Fanta and not the stuff we get here. God. He even goes for the gas block. He loses the SCV, but yo, this was a display of dominance coming down here from QuanTa.
I love this man.
How can you not? Cancel. He cancels.
Yeah, of course he does, man. What are you on? He's not live VIP. He wouldn't let it finish, man. He wouldn't let it die.
Yeah, who would do that?
Oh my god. Meanwhile, we have a very interesting opener across the map. He skips his Marine and his Reaper.
Yeah, he's going straight for a reactor first. This is usually indicative of him wanting to build a lot of units very, very early on, potentially being a little bit aggressive as well. Fortunately for NightMare, he scouts all of this with just one single probe.
Oh my god, that probe is
being losing micro battle though.
Oh my god,
dude! The SCV, you do not see one SCV kill one probe usually. Usually you gotta pull a spare.
What?
But QuanTa, no fear. He knows that he can win that battle. He knew all along. He did not allow that probe to back away, regen any shields, nothing whatsoever. QuanTa, we could just end the entire bracket right now.
Just send him the plane ticket. Just send him the ticket. Just
give him the ticket.
not even just qualifying for TSL. He's already top 8. He's
yeah, he's not even playing in the early rounds. It's not even in the lower bracket, you know.
Oh my god. So already a great start here for QuanTa. As you were saying, the opener was scattered by NightMare, so everything is all good for the time being. For NightMare, we should say. But he's still relatively in the dark, and again, losing that probe, that should never have happened. Oh my god.
Yeah, at the same time, you could argue that losing the SCV across the map also shouldn't have happened, but yo, that was sacrifice QuanTa was more than willing to make. You cannot say the same for that probe.
Exactly, mate. Aye. All right, here we go. QuanTa is moving out across the map. He's got his Marines. He's got Hellions behind this as well. This is a very, very wonky timing here, but it is going to get scattered. A spotted probe sees the Marines just in time. Now NightMare knows.
You don't want to be a probe in NightMare's army right now.
Not right now. And QuanTa, like, I appreciate the tenacity, but like, he's diving in with his Marines. He's hoping to try and kill one Stalker. He will not. He will get a couple of probes, but only 2.
Yeah, the focus fire wasn't quite there for QuanTa. Wasn't quite able to, shave off all of these probes. It's kind of difficult making that decision in the moment of thinking, okay, do I want to whittle down the Stalker count so that he is weaker right now, so they can't really go across the map yet, or do I want to focus on economic damage? And yeah, unfortunately, QuanTa kind of went for a Goldilocks answer that didn't really do much damage either way.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't hot enough. It wasn't cold enough. It was dead to the bears. And
oh yeah.
Meanwhile, back at home, I don't know if you noticed, but it was a Robo opening, not a Twilight Council opening, which means there is no blink, there's no charge, but what there is fast Colossi.
Very fast Colossi at that. I have to wonder if he's going to try to research Warp Prism speed on top of this as well. Being annoying with the Warp Prisms, just as sort of a way to signal, hey, QuanTa, blink is a thing. I can blink into your main if I researched it, and who knows, maybe I did. You didn't go into my main base.
True. What I will say though is because of the early Robo, I see it too, but because of the early Robo and because of this Prism, this should signify, obviously it was a Robo opener and the Twilight Council was delayed. Now, how delayed was the Twilight Council? QuanTa still doesn't know, as I just realized that I need to update the score on the screen. Oh my god, these Stalkers already dealing some damage, and mate, he cancelled Extended Thermal Lance.
Yo. There are a lot of Protoss players who play a bit more defensive, who decide that they're going to go for quick Colossus because they're anticipating their Terran opponents to go for a early push. And then there are those who say, you know what? Colossus can be offensive.
Oh yeah, they can be very offensive, mate. Here we go. The first Colossus is already going out across map. But what's important though is that the opener of QuanTa was Banshees. Cloak Banshees, and here we go. They are diving into the main base. So we have any detection on the map. We do have 2 observers. One is here at the natural base, but there's nothing here in position.
Yeah, 2 Banshees. They're basically like 2 Oracles. They do not care whatsoever about shield batteries, and this is a lot of probe damage being dealt. NightMare, once again, I mean, he kind of delayed his economy a little bit. He's still getting the 3rd base up quicker than QuanTa will, but he kind of got it a little bit later than Protoss typically does.
Exactly.
This is even more valuable for him.
Mate, he goes into the main base. He has his Colossi. It's zooming around because, of course, Warp Prism Speed was researched. Colossus Drop is already dealing and reciprocating that damage for SCVs go down even more.
That's actually a lot of damage those tanks dealt to the Colossus.
True.
I'm honestly a little surprised.
Oh, he wants the tank on siege. Puppy on siege. Oh.
Doesn't need to. Marauders coming down to save the day. You love to see it.
Yeah, exactly. That Colossus did take a lot of hull damage, so NightMare has to be a little bit careful with it. It's not the strongest Colossus it could be, but we do have Accidental Lance now on the way. The Banshees are still alive. They're here in between the bases, but they have to be careful because Stalkers are both above and below them. Colossus, still not done. Uh-oh.
Yeah. But maybe it should be. One more hit. Oh, NightMare saving that just in time.
Oh yeah, barely survives. Meanwhile, back at home, this all was delayed because of Cloak, because of the Banshees, but Stim is now on the way. 1-1. Combat Shields, I imagine, will be on the way afterwards, so QuanTa is kind of solidifying his army, but there is a window here where he's a little bit vulnerable, a window where NightMare has a pretty high Colossus count and already has those upgrades.
Yeah, I didn't notice it, but now that you pointed it out, it does feel kind of weird that QuanTa prioritize concussive shells over combat shields.
It is.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Meanwhile, oh my god, the Colossus micro is disgusting as he just dances between the bases, dances between the tank shots, and he's not done. He just keeps on going.
Yeah, he's even baiting out the projectiles from the Marauders. I mean, that doesn't really do much, but it's style points. It makes the Marauders, just a little bit upset.
Yeah, very nice micro here from NightMare. What's important though is that QuanTa isn't too far behind when it comes to the worker count. Pretty even. Actually, QuanTa ahead because of those mules. Again, NightMare losing a lot due to those Banshees, but finally the Banshees have all been taken out.
Yeah, triple Nexus pro production, very good, but then again, so is triple orbital. Triple orbital muling. Here's where things are starting to change a little bit, though. QuanTa has... Okay, I thought he was going to continue to produce Vikings, but nope, just the one.
Yeah, he does have one Viking, which is interesting. It will definitely help, don't get me wrong. I'm sure its goal here is to try and shut down the Prism, more than anything. Not really hyper-committing to Vikings to deal with all the Colossus. Yeah. Behind this, NightMare is taking that fourth.
Just about on time as well. A couple of Zealots sneak into the main, where unfortunately this is the one area the Viking wasn't covering.
Yeah, the patrol wasn't there. We do have a bit of a choke point, so the Zealots are eventually going to be cleaned up here, but not before delaying some of the production, not before taking out some SCVs, thankfully not too many, and somehow that Prism is still alive.
QuanTa has no idea that it's over there, and this is when NightMare takes this as an opportunity to push in with everything else he's got when the army is completely out of position, the Terran army, I mean.
And you know what? While it's out of position, we have another massive Zealot warping into the main base. QuanTa is being pulled apart right now. That Viking had one job. GG gets called, and NightMare takes the series.
Sure, QuanTa thought that he'd already dealt with that, but unfortunately, yeah, that warp proves otherwise. Nicely done here for NightMare. I mean, game number 1 was very close, a little bit shaky at times, but game number 2, yeah, he kind of established himself as the dominant player in that series.
He did. But regardless, it was a very fun series nonetheless. I don't have any regrets whatsoever following these players, and with that, GG, well played. Congratulations to NightMare. He moves on in the bracket. He moves on, and does he have an opponent?
He does not quite yet, but regardless, we're not going to be getting a mirror matchup. NightMare will move on to face either Percival in a PvT or Sue in a PvC.
Oh my god, there it is. I was just updating the bracket. There we go. A couple of players are already moving on there from their first round matches. Yeah,
and I just realized as well we're in Korea. So the next match, the second match here on the bracket is already going to be a qualifying round. Again, as a reminder to anybody back home, Korea does not have a double elimination bracket. It is just straight up single elimination, but that's also why there are a whole bunch of different qualifiers for the region as well.
Yeah, 3 qualifiers in total. There's also the server qualifier at the very end as well, so plenty of chances, plenty of opportunities, and it's short, it's sweet, but it's all about the quality here. You know, there's none of that kind of stamina, marathon, endurance kind of qualifiers that we've had in the other qualifiers. I just want to remind you, because I know you weren't there at the time, but the Latin American qualifier yesterday was 6 hours.
I have heard, yeah.
It was just over 6 hours, mate. It was insanely long compared to the Korean ones, which are like 1.5 to 2 hours max.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah, those Latin American players, man, they like their mech.
Some of them do. Some of them do.
Looking at you, Neil.
Shaking my head looking at you. Tavo, where were you, huh?
Tapo.
Tapo.
Tapoer.
But yeah, in the end, we do have a couple of other updates. Beyond did to Arai, Ryung did to Omondo as well. No surprising results yet, nothing yet, but I guess we're gonna keep our eyes open for whenever Percival and Sue come out, because again, I would love to follow this portion of the bracket.